She was standing next to the chip bowl like it owed her something. Not moving. Not talking to anyone. Just standing there with a plastic cup in her hand, watching the crowd like she was reading a book she did not particularly enjoy but could not put down. Her eyes moved from group to group. People laughing too loudly. Neighbors she probably did not know well enough to approach. A man in a lawn chair telling a story that was clearly not as interesting as he thought it was. She smiled at nothing whenever someone looked her way. That particular kind of smile. The one people wear when they are working very hard at looking like they are fine. Marcus saw all of it from across the yard. He was not the kind of man who scanned rooms. He was not the kind of man who noticed things quickly or made bold decisions in public. He was quiet in the way that some men are quiet. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they had learned, through years of real living, that most things did not require a word. He stood near the back fence with a cup of lemonade that had gone warm, and watched his kids chase a golden retriever across the grass, with the kind of energy that only 7-year-olds and 4-year-olds can produce at 7 in the evening. His son, Connor, was 7. His daughter, Lily, was 4, and wore her good shoes to the party, because she had decided this qualified as an important occasion. She had been very serious about this. She had stood at the front door before they left and looked up at Marcus and said, "Daddy, these are my best shoes. Do you think the party will be good enough for them?" And he had said, "Yes." He thought it probably would be. She had nodded like someone receiving an official confirmation, and walked out the door. He was here for her. He was always doing things for them now. Not because he did not want to. He did, deeply, in the way that becomes your whole reason for getting up. But because being here, at a neighborhood block party on a Saturday evening, was not something he would have chosen alone. He was not a party man. He was a man who worked with his hands all week, and then came home and cooked dinner, and helped with homework, and read bedtime stories, and sat in the quiet of his kitchen afterward with a cup of coffee. And that was enough. That was his whole life, and he had made his peace with it. Laura had been the one who loved parties. He did not let himself finish that thought. Instead, he looked back at the woman by the chip bowl. She had not moved. She checked her phone again. The look on her face when she looked at the screen was the look of someone reading a blank wall. No messages, no saved grace arriving from somewhere to pull her out of this moment. She put the phone back in her pocket and picked up a chip she probably did not want and ate it slowly. He knew that posture. Not from a book or a movie. He knew it the way you know something that has lived in your own body. That particular combination of a straight back and a face arranged carefully into calm and eyes that are doing too much work. He had worn it for months. At the grocery store, at school pickup, at church, once, when someone said something kind to him and he had to look at the ceiling for a long moment before he could respond. It was the posture of someone holding themselves together in public. Connor came running up with the golden retriever's ball, which apparently the dog had surrendered willingly, and held it up like it was a trophy. "Dad, can we keep him?" "That's not our dog, Bud. But he gave me his ball. Dogs do that." Connor considered this seriously. Does that mean he likes me more than his owner? It means he likes the ball getting thrown. Connor threw the ball. The dog exploded across the grass. Lily followed, screaming with delight, her good shoes flashing in the evening light. Marcus looked back. The woman had shifted slightly. She was now looking at a group of women near the patio table who were all laughing at something on someone's phone. She had the look of a person who was trying to decide whether to walk over, calculating the social math of it, measuring the distance between where she was and where she might belong. She did not walk over. He set down his lemonade on the fence post. He was not sure what he was doing. He was not a man who made plans in these moments. He did not rehearse sentences or think about how he would come across. He just noticed that she looked the way he used to look, and something in him moved before his brain could organize an opinion about it. Lily ran back and grabbed his hand. She was breathing hard from running. Her good shoes were now carrying a significant amount of grass. She looked up at him, and then across the yard, following his gaze. "Daddy," she said. "Yeah? Why is that lady by herself?" He looked down at his daughter. She was 4 years old, and already understood something that most adults spent their whole lives pretending not to see. "I don't know," he said. Lily looked at the woman for another moment. Then she looked back up at him with the patient, expectant expression she used when she wanted him to solve something. He understood. He took Lily's hand, and they walked across the yard together. He did not walk fast. He did not prepare anything to say. He arrived at the chip bowl the way a person arrives somewhere they belong, without announcement. And he picked up a chip, ate it, and said, "These are terrible." The woman turned. For a moment she looked startled, the way people look when something real cuts through the performance they have been running. Then something in her face shifted, like a knot loosening, and she laughed. A real one, the kind that comes out before you can make it appropriate. "They really are," she said. Lily had already decided this woman was interesting, and was now leaning against her side with the casual physical confidence of a 4-year-old who does not understand social boundaries and is better for it. "Sorry," Marcus said. "She does that." The woman looked down at Lily. Something in her eyes went soft. "Hi there." "Hi," Lily said. "My shoes are good ones." "I can see that. They're very good." Lily nodded, satisfied. Connor appeared from somewhere, breathless, the golden retriever at his heels. He looked at the woman, then at his dad, then went back to the dog, all in about 1 second. He had the social processing speed of a golden retriever himself. Marcus said, "I'm Marcus." "Diane," she said. He did not ask her what she did for work. He did not ask how long she had lived in the neighborhood. He did not do any of the things people do at parties, to fill the silence with the shape of conversation, without any of the substance. He just said, "There's a bench by the fence if you want to sit. Better angle for watching my kids terrorize that dog." She looked at him for a moment. Not long. Just long enough to take his measure in the way that people do when something kind happens and they are not yet sure if it is real. Then she said, "Okay." They sat on the bench. The light was going golden, the way it does in late summer evenings, when the day finally decides to be generous before it ends. Connor threw the ball. Lily chased the dog instead of the ball, which was her own system. The dog did not seem to mind. Diane had a son. He emerged from somewhere near the bounce house, a boy of about 6 with a serious face and a juice box, and immediately joined Connor and Lily's operation, without asking for an invitation or an explanation. Children are efficient like that. They do not waste time on formalities. "That's Owen," Diane said. "He and Connor are going to be trouble together," Marcus said. She watched them. The look on her face was not the performed smile from before. It was something quieter and more real. "He doesn't usually do that," she said. "Join in like that. Connor didn't used to either." She glanced at him. He was not looking at her. He was watching the kids. "What changed?" she asked. He was quiet for a moment, the kind of quiet that is not empty. "He had to learn that people can be safe," Marcus said. Diane did not say anything back. She just looked at her son throwing a ball with 2 kids he had met 4 minutes ago, and she held her cup in both hands, and she did not perform anything at all. The evening went on around them the way evenings do when you stop trying to manage them. People drifted past. Music played from someone's speaker. The golden retriever finally collapsed in the grass, and Lily sat down next to it like she had won something. Owen came running to Diane with a story about something Connor had said that was apparently very funny, and his face when he told it was the face of a boy who had been laughing without self-consciousness, which is a specific kind of joy. When the party started to wind down, and parents began collecting children in lawn chairs, Marcus stood and picked up both their cups. He did not make a thing of it. He just did it. Diane stood and called Owen over, and fixed his collar, which had gone sideways. She looked up and found Marcus looking not at her but at Lily, who had somehow gotten grass stains on shoes she had been wearing for 2 hours. "Thank you," Diane said, "for coming over." He looked at her. "Nobody should have to stand by the chip bowl alone," he said. She laughed again, that real laugh. Walking home through the quiet of the neighborhood, Lily between him and Connor, Marcus thought about what Lily had asked. Why is that lady by herself? He did not have an answer for that. Some people ended up alone in the middle of crowds, through no fault of their own. Things happened. Life shifted beneath your feet. And then you were standing somewhere you did not quite belong, trying very hard to look like you were fine. He had been that person. For a long time, he had been exactly that person. He helped Lily out of her good shoes at the front door. She held them up and inspected them like a quality control officer. The party was good enough for them, she declared. I think so too, he said. He did not know yet what that evening would become. He did not have a feeling of destiny, or a sense that something enormous had started. He was just a man who had noticed someone standing alone, and had done what seemed like the only reasonable thing. He did not know then that it would change everything. The next morning he sent her a text. Not a long one, not a smooth one. He was not that kind of man, and she deserved better than smooth. He sent her a photo. Lily, still in her good shoes, asleep on the couch with a half-empty chip bag beside her. Below it he typed, "She had a good time." He put the phone down and started making coffee. He did not watch the screen. He was not a man who watched screens waiting for responses. He made coffee and checked Connor's soccer bag for his shin guards, which were never where they were supposed to be, and by the time he found them behind the couch cushion, his phone had lit up. A laughing emoji. Then, Owen talked about Connor the entire way home. Apparently Connor knows a joke about a penguin that is the funniest thing in the world. Marcus smiled at his phone, then put it in his pocket. "Who are you texting?" Connor asked from the kitchen doorway. "A friend," Marcus said. Connor looked at him for a moment with the evaluating eyes of a 7-year-old who has very strong opinions about everything. Then he said, "Can I have cereal?" "Yes. The good kind. You know where it is." Connor went to the cabinet. Marcus poured his coffee. It was a Sunday morning like every other Sunday morning. It was also, though he did not know it then, the beginning of something that would quietly rearrange the shape of his life. Diane sat at her kitchen table with her phone and read the message 3 times. Owen was still asleep. The apartment was quiet in the way it was always quiet on Sunday mornings, which was a silence she had learned to live with but had never fully made her peace with. She looked at the photo of the little girl on the couch with her good shoes still on, and the chip bag beside her, and felt something in her chest that was warm and uncomplicated, which was rare enough that she noticed it. She did not analyze it. She typed her response and set the phone down and made Owen's breakfast. But she was smiling when she cracked the eggs. And she had not expected to be smiling on a Sunday morning. Not for a long time now. The thing about Marcus was that he did not push. That was the first thing she noticed. In the days after the party, he texted occasionally, not constantly, not with the frequency of someone trying to build something on a deadline. Just here and there. A funny thing Connor had said. A question about what Owen's favorite food was, asked with no context that she understood, until 3 days later, when she ran into him at the school pickup line, and he handed Owen a small bag from the sandwich place on Oak Street that Owen had mentioned liking once, apparently, in a conversation Diane had not heard. Owen's face when he opened that bag. She thought about that face for longer than she should have. She had been alone for 2 years. Not entirely alone. She had Owen, and she had her sister Carol, and she had her coworker Nina who made her laugh at the right moments. But alone in the particular way that means there is no one in the house when the kids are asleep, no one to tell the small things to. The things that are not important enough to call someone about but that build up, day after day, until you are carrying more than you realized. She had gotten used to it. She had learned to be efficient with herself. Do not spend time on what is not available to you. Keep moving. Keep the apartment clean and the schedule running, and Owen's homework done and the bills paid. And do not stand in the kitchen at 9 at night thinking about what is missing, because nothing good comes from that. And then a quiet man had walked up to a chip bowl and told her the chips were terrible, and somehow that small, ordinary thing had felt like someone opening a window. She did not trust it. She wanted to, but she had trusted things before that had not held, and she was careful now in ways she had not had to be before. Still, she said yes when he asked if Owen could come to Connor's Saturday soccer game. She sat in the bleachers with a coffee she had bought on the way, and watched Owen sit beside Lily on the front row of parents and small siblings, and shout Connor's name every time Connor touched the ball, regardless of what was actually happening in the game. Lily joined him, shouting with equal enthusiasm, with no understanding of soccer whatsoever, but an enormous amount of confidence about it. Marcus sat beside Diane. He said very little. He cheered when Connor scored. He handed her a granola bar at halftime without being asked. which she ate without thinking about it, and only afterward realized she had not eaten since morning. He noticed things. That was what she kept coming back to. He noticed the things that did not announce themselves. After the game, the four of them walked to the park 2 blocks away, because the kids demanded it, and Diane found herself walking through the early afternoon light, next to a man who was not performing anything for her. Not his patience, not his kindness, not his competence. He was just there, steady and quiet and present in a way that she had stopped expecting from anyone. Owen fell off the climbing structure and scraped his knee, and cried with the full theatrical commitment that 6-year-olds bring to injury. Diane was there in an instant, crouching down, checking it, saying the right things. Marcus appeared behind her with a small first aid kit from his jacket pocket, not because he was showing off, but because he was a father of 2 children, and he simply never went anywhere without one. Owen looked at Marcus. "Do you have a bandage?" "I've got 3 options," Marcus said. He pulled them out. One had rockets on it. One had dinosaurs. One was plain. He held them out. Owen chose dinosaurs without hesitation. Diane watched Marcus put the bandage on Owen's knee, with the same careful hands he seemed to do everything with, and something moved in her that she was not ready to name. She did not name it, but she did not look away either. That evening, walking home, Owen held both their hands without asking. He just reached up and took them, Diane's on one side, Marcus's on the other, and swung between them for a few steps with the simple, uncomplicated joy of a child who has decided something without telling anyone. Diane looked straight ahead. Marcus looked straight ahead. Neither of them said anything about it. But the warmth of that moment stayed with her long after Owen was asleep, and the apartment was quiet, and she was sitting on the couch in the dark, wondering how she had gotten from the chip bowl to here, without noticing it happening. The weeks moved the way weeks do when you are not watching them, gently and then all at once. Connor and Owen became the kind of friends that parents do not engineer. It happened on its own, through soccer games and homework and a shared interest in a video game that neither of them was technically old enough to play, but that both of them knew every detail of. Lily adopted Owen as a small project, which Owen accepted with the good-natured patience of an oldest child who understood that small children require management. The 4 of them fell into a rhythm. Saturdays at the park. The occasional dinner. School pickups where Diane and Marcus would stand together on the sidewalk and talk for 5 minutes and then 10, and then, one Tuesday, 45 minutes without noticing. Nina, at work, noticed that Diane was different. "You look rested," Nina said one morning, squinting at her over her coffee. "I slept fine." "No, it's not sleep. You look like a person who has something to look forward to." Diane organized the pens on her desk. "I don't know what you mean." Nina said nothing else, but she smiled at her coffee in a very knowing way that Diane chose not to acknowledge. There were hard weeks too. Life is not even about the tender parts. Owen's father, Kevin, missed the custody exchange again on a Thursday. No call, no text, just a car that did not show up and a 6-year-old boy standing at the front door with his overnight bag, checking the street. Diane did not cry in front of Owen. She sat with him on the porch for 20 minutes, saying easy things, keeping her voice light, making it into nothing while it was very much something. When Kevin finally sent a text, work came up, next time, she put the phone face down on the counter and stood at the kitchen sink and breathed through it. Her phone buzzed. She thought it was Kevin calling to offer another poor excuse. It was Marcus, bringing dinner. "Connor wants to show Owen the penguin joke. Is that okay?" She stared at the message. She typed, "How did you know?" He typed, "I didn't. Connor just wanted to come. Is that okay?" She put the phone down and pressed her fingers against her eyes for a moment. Then she typed, "Yes, please." They arrived 30 minutes later with pasta from the Italian place on Birch Street and a small carton of Owen's favorite ice cream. And Connor, who walked in the door and immediately went to find Owen, with the directness of a child on a mission. Within 4 minutes, both boys were on the floor with a board game, and Lily was in the armchair eating ice cream with a spoon she had found herself. Marcus set the food out on Diane's kitchen counter. He did not ask about Kevin. He did not ask if she was okay, in the tone that requires you to say something reassuring back. He just handed her a plate and said, "Sit down." She sat down. She ate dinner with her son and 3 people who had become, somewhere in the past several weeks, the people she looked toward when something went wrong. She did not know how to hold that without being afraid of it. But she held it anyway. It was later, after the kids were settled and Connor and Lily were texting their dad about going home soon and Owen had fallen asleep on the couch, that Marcus stood at Diane's kitchen sink washing the dishes because he had cooked a meal, and that was simply how things worked in his house. She came and stood beside him and picked up the dish towel. They did the dishes together in the quiet of her kitchen. The window above the sink showed the dark street. A car passed. Someone's porch light blinked on. The water ran. "You don't have to tell me," he said. She knew what he meant. She had been deciding whether to say something for the past 2 hours. "Kevin left when Owen was 4, she said. "He didn't leave dramatically, he just stopped showing up. For things. For us. She folded the dish towel once. I kept thinking he'd find his way back to it. Some people do." Marcus handed her another plate. She dried it. "He didn't," she said. It was not a complaint. It was just a fact she had made her peace with. "No," Marcus said. "Do you think people change?" she asked. He was quiet for a moment. She had learned that his silences were not evasions. They were him actually thinking. "I think people can," he said, "but not without deciding to." She put the plate in the cabinet. "What about you? Did you change?" He thought about it seriously, the way he thought about everything. "I got smaller for a while. After Laura." He handed her the last dish. "Then I got bigger again. Slower, but bigger." She did not ask him to explain what he meant. She understood it exactly. Owen shifted on the couch in the other room, resettling himself in sleep. Connor appeared in the kitchen doorway with Lily on his back, both of them ready to go home. "Dad," Connor said. "Lily's asleep standing up, basically." Marcus dried his hands. He looked at Diane. "You good?" It was such a small question. She had been asked some version of it her entire adult life, and had never answered it honestly in public. "Yeah," she said, and it was true. He rounded up his kids. Owen woke up just long enough to hug Connor goodbye with the sloppy sincerity of the nearly asleep. Lily waved at Diane with the hand that was not holding her father's. The door closed. Diane stood in her quiet kitchen. She was not pretending to be fine. She was actually fine. She had forgotten there was a difference. The thing happened on a Tuesday. It was always the unremarkable days that held the moments that mattered most. Marcus had come over to fix her bathroom faucet, which had been dripping for 3 weeks, and had reached the point where she could hear it from the living room. He was an electrician by trade, but he knew plumbing the way men who work with their hands know other trades. Practically, without fuss. He had the tools in his truck, and it took him 20 minutes, and he did not make it a thing. Owen was at school. Lily was at preschool. Connor was at school. It was just Marcus and Diane, and the quiet apartment, and the Tuesday light coming through the kitchen window. She made coffee. He finished with the faucet and washed his hands, and came and sat at the kitchen counter, and she set a cup in front of him, and they sat like people who had sat in the same room many times, because they had. She did not know what made her say it. Maybe it was the particular quality of the Tuesday. Maybe it was that she had been carrying it for a long time and it had gotten heavy. "Can I tell you something?" "Yes," he said. And that was it. No preparation. No invitation to be careful with what she was about to say. Just yes. Like it was the only reasonable answer. "I have been afraid," she said. "Since Owen was 4 and Kevin left. I have been afraid of needing someone. I have made myself very good at not needing anyone." She turned her coffee cup in her hands. "I am not sure I know how to stop." Marcus did not say anything right away. He let the words be in the room. He did not rush to fix it, or reassure her, or fill the space with something comfortable. "I know," he said. She looked at him. "After Laura died," he said, "I told myself I was fine. I told myself I had the kids and my work and that was a good life. And it was. It is." He looked at his coffee. "But I had stopped letting anything new in. Like I was a house with all the windows shut." He paused. "It took me a long time to notice the air was going stale." She was quiet. "What changed?" she asked. He looked at her. Direct and uncomplicated and without any performance at all. A woman stood by a chip bowl and looked like she was working very hard at something, he said, and I decided to walk over. She breathed out slowly. That's it? She said. That's it, he said. It was not a declaration. It was not a romantic speech. It was just a true thing, said plainly by a man who had learned that plainness was its own kind of courage. She sat with it. Outside, a car went by. A bird moved in the tree near the window. The coffee sat warm between them. I'm still afraid, she said. That's okay, he said. And somehow, that was the most comforting thing he could have said. Not a promise that the fear would go away. Not a guarantee about the future. Just, that's okay. You can be afraid. You can still be here. She nodded. He finished his coffee. He did not make the moment larger than it was, and she was grateful for that, because she needed to carry it at her own speed. That evening, she called her sister Carol and talked for a long time. Carol listened, and at the end she said, Diane, when is the last time someone brought you dinner because they noticed you were having a hard day? Diane thought about it. Tuesday, she said. Before that? She could not remember. Then I think you already know, Carol said. She did know. She had known for a while. Knowing was not the hard part. The hard part was letting yourself trust what you knew after you had been wrong before. But there is a point, a quiet, ordinary Tuesday kind of point, where the evidence becomes too clear to argue with, where the person across from you has been consistent and steady and real across enough ordinary moments that doubt starts to cost more than it protects. Diane reached that point without realizing she had crossed it. She realized it sitting on her couch that evening, with Owen beside her, watching something on television, and her phone lit up with a message from Marcus that said only, "The faucet is going to be fine. I put in a new washer. Should hold." She laughed at that. Just laughed. Owen looked at her. "What's funny?" "Nothing," she said. "Just someone I know." Owen considered this, then went back to the television. "Is it Marcus?" She looked at her son. "What makes you say that?" Owen shrugged with the enormous, unbothered honesty of a 6-year-old. "You only laugh like that about Marcus." She looked at her phone. She typed, "Thank you. For the faucet. And for everything else." He typed back, "Any time." 2 words. Simple. And entirely enough. The Saturday it all became clear was not planned. The best things rarely are. Marcus had been cooking, which had become a Saturday thing in the slow, natural way that good things become regular. Not because anyone decided, but because no one decided not to. Diane sat on the counter because it was her kitchen and she could. And Owen and Connor were somewhere in the building making noise in the disciplined way of boys who are having a controlled amount of fun. And Lily was on the couch watching something and occasionally shouting commentary into the kitchen. Marcus was making pasta. From scratch, because he and Connor had gone through a phase 6 months ago of learning to make pasta, and now it was Connor's proudest achievement, and Marcus's most reliable Saturday move. Diane watched him work. He had flour on his left hand. He did not notice. She did not tell him. She was watching his hands. She had been watching his hands since the beginning, she realized. The way he set things down carefully. The way he put the bandage on Owen's knee. The way he washed dishes in her kitchen like it was the most natural thing in the world. His hands were not dramatic. They just did what they were supposed to do, and they did it with an attention that she found, in ways she could not fully explain, deeply reassuring. "You're doing it again," he said, not looking up from the pasta. "Doing what?" "Thinking very loudly." She laughed. "I didn't know that was audible." "On you it is." He looked at her. Flour on his hand. Calm eyes. "What's in there?" She thought about deflecting. She was good at deflecting. She had a whole system for it. A quick joke. A change of subject. A smile that meant nothing. She had used it for 2 years, and it had worked well enough. She did not use it now. "I was thinking," she said, "that I am very glad you walked over to the chip bowl." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Me too." Not dramatic, not large, just true. The pasta water boiled over slightly, and he turned back to it, and she sat on the counter, and the kitchen was warm and loud with the sound of children somewhere in the apartment, and the late afternoon light was coming through the window at the angle it came at this time of year, and something settled in her. Not the absence of fear. She was not fearless. She was not fixed. She had not suddenly become someone who did not carry the weight of the years she had carried. But something had settled. Like a door, long held shut by effort and practice and self-protection, that had quietly come open, not kicked open, not pulled, just released. The way things release when you stop holding them so tight. Lily appeared in the doorway. She looked at the two of them. She had a juice box in one hand and the expression of a 4-year-old who has made a decision. "You look like you're in a movie," she announced. Marcus and Diane looked at each other. Neither of them said anything, and then both of them did. The laughter came the same moment, and it was a small and genuine and ordinary thing, the kind that doesn't get remembered as a moment, but that becomes part of the way you remember a period of your life, warmly and with gratitude. Owen and Connor appeared behind Lily, drawn by the sound. "What's funny?" Owen asked. "Your mom and Marcus," Lily said very seriously, then turned and walked back to the couch. Connor looked at his dad. His dad was still laughing. Connor filed this information away with the practiced expression of a 7-year-old who understood something was happening and had decided it was acceptable. "Is the pasta done?" he asked. "Almost," Marcus said. "Good," Connor said, and left. Owen followed him. Lily was back on the couch. Marcus and Diane were alone in the kitchen again. She looked at him. He looked at her. The flour was still on his hand. The pasta was almost done. The light was perfect and indifferent to all of this, the way light always is. "Marcus," she said. "Yeah." "Don't stop showing up." He looked at her for a long moment. "I wasn't planning on it," he said. That was all. No grand promise. No statement designed for the occasion. Just a man telling her a plain, true thing, in the same steady way he told her all his plain, true things. She got down from the counter and picked up the spoon and handed it to him. He stirred the pasta. She got the plates out of the cabinet. They made dinner together. They did not have a dramatic moment when they decided what they were. There was no conversation that went, "We need to talk about what this is." They were both too old for that and too practical, and they had both already seen enough of life to know that naming things does not make them real. Living them makes them real. What happened was smaller and more permanent. Diane's name appeared on the emergency contact list at Lily's preschool. Marcus had asked first, quietly, one afternoon, over coffee, and she had gone still for a moment, in a way that had nothing to do with uncertainty, and everything to do with being moved by something. Then she had nodded, once, and he had added her name without making anything of it. Owen started calling Marcus's house the other house, as in, "Is Lily's other house the one with the good cereal?" This was not encouraged or engineered. It came out of Owen's 6-year-old geography of his life, which now included 2 kitchens and 4 people, and something warm and consistent that he did not have a word for, but clearly did not feel the need to question. Carol met Marcus at a family dinner Diane hosted in November. She watched him quietly over the meal with the alert eyes of an older sister who had seen Diane through the hard years. At the end of the evening, when Marcus had taken his kids home and Owen was asleep, Carol washed dishes with Diane and said nothing for a long time. Then she said, "He refilled my water glass twice without being asked." "He does that," Diane said. Carol nodded slowly. "I like him." Diane smiled at the dish in her hand. "Me too." There were still hard things. Life did not become easy because something good had entered it. Kevin remained unreliable. There were months where money was tighter than Diane liked. Connor went through a difficult patch at school that kept Marcus up at night. Lily caught a bad cold that lasted 2 weeks and needed constant attention. But the hard things were different now. Not smaller, just shared. When Kevin missed another exchange on a wet November Thursday, and Owen sat at the window looking down at the empty street, Marcus arrived without being called. Diane had only texted a single word, "Kevin," and he had understood, and he took Owen to the hardware store with Connor, and let Owen help him pick out light bulbs, which sounds small, and is small, and was exactly the right thing. Owen came home, talking about the difference between warm light and cool light, with the authority of a recent expert, and his voice had the specific energy of a child who has been treated like his opinion matters. He went to bed that night without the bruised quietness he usually carried after his father let him down. Diane sat in her kitchen after Owen was asleep and understood that this was what it was. Not the grand gesture, not the romantic evening. This, the hardware store, the light bulbs, the 7-year-old boy talking about warm light, and the 6-year-old boy who listened. This was what people who showed up actually looked like. Spring came. It came the way it comes in that part of the country. Slowly, and then all at once. The trees doing nothing for weeks and then erupting green overnight. Owen had a birthday. Connor had a science project about volcanoes that Marcus and Diane spent one long kitchen evening helping with, and that produced a significant amount of baking soda on the kitchen floor. There was a morning in March. It was early. The kind of early that belongs to parents, before the children are awake, before the day has claimed anyone. Marcus had come over the evening before because the kids had had a late movie night that turned into nobody going home, and Connor and Owen had fallen asleep on the floor of Owen's room in the wreckage of a board game, and Lily was in Owen's bed because she had claimed it without asking. Marcus had stayed on the couch. He did not make this complicated. He just stayed because leaving at midnight seemed like an unnecessary disruption. In the morning, Diane came into the kitchen and he was already there. He had made coffee. He had found, without being told, where she kept the good mugs versus the everyday mugs, and he had used the everyday ones, which was exactly correct. He handed her a cup. She stood in her kitchen in the early morning quiet and drank her coffee, and he stood beside her and drank his. From the back rooms came the first sounds of children waking. A thump, a voice, Lily's characteristic announcement of the day. They looked at each other. Just looked. The whole thing was in that look, if you knew what to look for. Everything that had started at a chip bowl at a block party on a summer evening. Everything that had been built from showing up and noticing and doing the small thing consistently until the small things added up to something that could hold weight. They did not say it. Not yet. They did not need to. It was already true. It had been true for some time. Connor appeared in the kitchen doorway with his hair sideways and asked for cereal. Owen followed, still half asleep. Lily came last, holding the blanket she had taken from Owen's bed, wearing an expression of total confidence. Marcus got the cereal. Diane got the bowls. The kitchen filled with noise and the morning light came through the window and there was cereal on the counter and someone knocked over a cup of juice, and nobody made it a catastrophe. It was ordinary. It was loud. It was warm. Marcus looked across the kitchen at Diane, who was cleaning up the juice with the practiced calm of a mother who has cleaned up 10,000 spills and finds no drama in it. She looked up and found him looking. She raised an eyebrow, the small private language of two people who have become familiar. He shook his head slightly. The answer to a question she had not asked. The answer was, nothing. Nothing is wrong. I am just here. I am just glad. Lily said loudly, Owen, you spilled. Owen said, I know. Connor said, I didn't spill. Marcus said, noted, Connor. And the morning went on. It was not the kind of morning anyone would put in a movie. There were no sweeping statements or dramatic weather, or music rising at the right moment. It was just 4 children eating cereal and 2 adults in a kitchen, and the ordinary, irreplaceable warmth of a household that had become, quietly and without announcement, a household. He had not gone to that party looking for anything. He had gone because Lily wanted to wear her good shoes somewhere, and he had noticed a woman standing alone. And he had walked over. That was the whole story. The noticing, the walking over, the choosing, every day after not to look away. Some things do not announce themselves when they arrive. They come quietly, in the middle of ordinary evenings, wearing plain clothes, arriving without fanfare at the chip bowl of your life. And you realize later, much later, standing in a warm kitchen with children eating cereal, and the morning light doing what morning light does, that the ordinary thing was the extraordinary thing, that it had been, from the very beginning, everything.